Ricmotech GT Challenge, broadcasted Mondays live on Apex Racing TV. Visit ExtremeMotorsports99.com for series and schedule details. Broadcast coverage next.
The end is coming ever closer for the spring schedule of the 2020 Ricmotech GT Challenge. 6 of the 8 rounds already in the books. The Daytona Road Course, Suzuka, the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, the famed Le Mans, Road Atlanta, and most recently Silverstone. And today, it's Catalunya and the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya to be exact. Looking forward to round number 7 of this particular program under the Ricmotech umbrella, the GT Challenge. We'll see drivers in both GT Le Mans and GT Daytona bring their BMWs, Ferraris, Fords, Porsches, Audis, Mercedes, all to the racetrack here today. Looking forward to what should be a tremendous battle on a challenging track. 16 corners, a track that has hosted many a Formula One Grand Prix as well as MotoGP. My name's Rob Howden, joined in the commentary booth today by Alessandro Delladone. Tyler Maxson will be on the cameras for us in the production trailer. Alessandro, this is the track I'm really looking forward to. I'm not really up to date on the competition here. I've watched several MotoGP events and the coverage of the track here at Catalunya. I think this is going to be a tremendous race because coming off the battles that we saw at Silverstone, the championship most definitely up for grabs.
Indeed, this is a very European track, Rob. This is definitely not what we have seen the last few races. This is a track where passing is going to be a bit more complicated, I think, in respect to the last race we had in Silverstone, which has been totally a very interesting race where we had a crazy finish. And I'm definitely looking forward to see these drivers contend for another beautiful race, 75-minute race, where strategy, traffic, even though we have 23 cars today on the grid, I bet we will have a heck of a race around this beautiful twisty track that is home to plenty of testing and motorsport events all over the categories here in Europe.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of elevation change on the track as well. It's kind of built on a bit of a hill. Again, the track measuring out at about 2.89 miles, 4.6 kilometers, 16 corners, as I said, and the draft will definitely come into play here. Slipstreaming will be key, and we saw that, of course, at Silverstone as well, and we expect to see a lot of that here today as well at Catalunya. If we look back at the event that we saw just a couple of weeks ago, we saw a really solid battle in the GTLM category. Miguel Acruda actually coming away with the race win. We had a couple of drivers spin. Caden Bin was putting some pressure on late. He had a penalty, penalized himself with a spin. William Laster, who really dominated in his Ford GT at Silverstone, ended up getting a pit lane speed penalty, which robbed him of the victory. Same happened for Mike Dam. He had an issue. A tremendous battle, though, Alessandro, in the GTD class. The fight between Esteban Rodriguez and Caleb Lavender went essentially from green to checker. Lavender led a majority of the race. Rodriguez right there with him and was just very patient, was able to battle it out at the end. The bottom line, we had some really great racing in round number 6 at Silverstone.
Yeah, indeed, we've seen, especially in the GTD class, this battle going on from start to finish has been incredible. Also in the GT Le Mans we had very close battles and passes for the top spots all race long, and then we had the surprise winner Miguel Alcrudo. So definitely a very entertaining race, and we for sure expect to have another beautiful race today with Andrew Caron now leading after the first few laps of qualifying in his BMW.
Indeed, qualifying underway now. Drivers on the racetrack just to pass the first third mark of this 15-minute session. Drivers getting 15 minutes to get their 4 laps in the books. Of course, Andrew Caron, as we said, leading the way at 142.012, fast lap thus far. Quickest driver in our GTD class is the lone Audi driver of Caleb Lavender. Again, leading the points coming in to this particular event. 6 rounds in the books, 2 to go. So this is the penultimate round of the Ricmotech GT Challenge. Again, brought to you by Texas Proforma, Elite Texas Graphics. Big thank you to both Proforma and Ricmotech for being our sponsors of the GT Challenge here in 2020. The spring schedule of the second season for this particular program. The drivers from here will look forward about 3 weeks' time. We'll have a Monday evening run, a 90-minute race, extended distance for the finale at Watkins Glen in upstate New York. Lavender looking good in the GTR SimSport Audi R8 GT3. Again, leading the way, as I said, a 146.078. He's currently on the provisional pole for the category. Not even to the halfway point, though. The driver sitting second in the points, Dennis Savretic, is currently P2, only back by 27 thousandths of a second. Behind him, it is Brandon Whitworth, Eric Violette, and Jeff Jacobs. 5 drivers set to go here today in the GTD class. Andrew Caron, though, up top. Andrew, again, in the middle of the championship battle, currently sitting third in the points. He leads the way over Caden Bin, Ian Gagnon Renault, your point leader, Abner Acosta, and Miguel Acruda. That's your current Fast 5 as we're just coming to the halfway point, Alessandro, of this 15-minute qualifying session.
Yeah, great qualifying by Andrew Caron so far. He is one of the drivers who had a little bit of a struggle in Silverstone last time around. Even though someone who definitely wants to bounce back from a disastrous event is Gagnon Renault, the championship leader, who did not make past lap 1 in Silverstone, and now is on a roll to get some more points and make sure he doesn't lose his lead in the championship, because there are a lot of drivers very close. The contention for the win of the GT Le Mans category is definitely interesting, because we have 5-6 drivers very close to each other with one race after this to go.
Scanning up and down the grid right now, or at least the timing sheet, 2 notable absences, at least from what I'm seeing here now. Number 1, William Lasser, the driver who was so impressive at Silverstone driving that Ford GT, currently 5th place in points. We don't see him on the order at all, so potentially William Lasser, a no-show here today at Catalunya. And as well, the winner from the GTD class at Silverstone, Esteban Rodriguez. I don't see him. We have Raymond Rodriguez running in the GTLM class, but we do not have Esteban here. So it appears that a couple of the front-running drivers who were so much part of the storyline for Silverstone will not be in action here in Spain. So that will open things up a little bit. Watching now Caden Bin in the number 18 RSR Esports Ferrari 488. Again, one of the drivers very impressive in the race at Silverstone. Looks like he wrapped up his session and is done. Same goes for Brandon Whitworth in number 42. Whitworth currently sitting 3rd in the GTT category. This is Eric Violette in the D2D Esports Mercedes. Beautiful. He works his way on track here still. Currently 4th in the GTD class. Still some time left to go. Just about 5.5 minutes before we wrap up qualifying here, Alessandro.
Yeah, indeed, and what a qualifying session up front for the GT Le Mans class, because we have a tie for the pole position, and Andrew Caron scored the lap first, so he will get credit pole position, I think. Never say never, so we have to expect wait for the official result at the end of the qualifying. But Gagnon Renault, same time, and Abner Acosta, 42 thousandths behind the leader. So we have in Alpha 10th 3 drivers.
Yeah, I like that. That bodes well for what could be a very, very close battle throughout our 75-minute session. Now, educate me on this, Alessandro. I'm not actually up to speed on this. How does iRacing separate fast lap? I know that in the real life racing that we do in the programs that I announce for, if there is a tie for the fastest lap, we then go to the second fastest lap. That's what breaks the tie. Is it the first driver to set it in iRacing, as you said, or is it the fastest second lap?
Well, that's a very good question, Rob, because to be fair, I don't have an exactly response to that, but I think it's who set it first.
Yeah, we got the concept there, or rather the confirmation there from Tyler Maxon, our producer, saying he knows that for a fact. It's who sets it first. So that's a neat thing to understand about iRacing. You got to get out there and lay that lap down first, and that's going to give Andrew Caron the provisional pole time here now. Still over 3.5 minutes in the session. I don't think that either of those drivers is on track. We do see Mike Dam out here in the Cryptology Racing Orange number 93, the Canadian veteran, out for his session now, kind of waiting later on in the run. So let's see where Mike Dam is going to make his move up to, currently in the 10th position. Just kind of dialing things in here right now. He's 1.4 seconds back. As I said, still quite a ways to go. We're just coming up on 3 minutes remaining in our qualifying session before we go racing here for round number 6 of the Ricmotech GT Challenge, season number 2, and of course the spring schedule of the program here. And it's been a tremendous run. We go kind of back through the points to see who stepped things up, and to be able to get down here to round number 7 with the championship still very tight, could be an exciting finish. Robert Hartley, the American, in the number 3. Currently in the 11th spot, Alessandro. He is actually 4th place in points, so for some crucial work for Hartley to potentially get himself back into the championship challenge with a big race performance here today.
Oh yeah, indeed, but even though he is struggling a little bit, sliding all over the place in the S's there, I wouldn't count him out, because even though he will be starting 11th, the pace all these competitors are running is so even. And in a 75-minute race with a pit stop also in between, we will see definitely some big shake-ups in the grid. So I know that Robert has a very good racecraft, so we expect him to move towards the top of the standings by the end of this event. But for sure, with such a tight field, it's gonna be, he also have a track position at the start, Rob.
So Hartley brings it into pit lane as well. Again, less than 2 minutes remaining. Good to be here, though, at the circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Again, this track, built back in 1991, has hosted the Spanish Grand Prix in Formula One. And, of course, as I said before, the MotoGP as well puts on a tremendous show. The bikes in the MotoGP program really light things up here at Catalunya, one of the favorite stops of the riders in that program as well. We are counting things down, folks, and I think most of the drivers have probably worked their way into pit lane. They were able to get their 4 laps in the books, so we will get a chance to look in about a minute's time, Alessandro, at the grid for the drivers in the GTLM and GTD categories. Provisional poll right now with a minute to go is Andrew Caron and Caleb Lavender, a couple of drivers both in the championship fight, and looking forward to getting this penultimate race off to a good start.
And it's really looking forward, because both championship in GT Le Mans and GTD are so close, and with only these 2 events here in Barcelona and then Watkins Glen in 3 weeks' time, definitely there are some drivers that have to perform today here in Spain if they want to have a chance in the final round to get still a chance to win the championship. In the GTD, Lavender and Savretic are really close, as we've seen also in the last events. So really interesting and very close battles all over the grid. Something we really have to watch is people trying to come back and other drivers who are now leading their respective class having to keep consistent points, because it can get you can get from high to lows in a very quick matter of time. But Rob, take us through the grid.
Yeah, the qualifying has completed, Alessandro. Indeed, Andrew Caron and the Movano Sim Racing team number 72 qualifying on the pole with a 141.953, starting alongside your point leader for F4H Racing. It's Ian Gagnon Renault, again, exactly the same time for the first and second place drivers. Caron setting that fast time first, so he does get the pole position. Row 2, we'll see the 44 of Abner Acosta alongside Caden Bin, who is one of our challengers at Silverstone. Row 3 will be El Crudo alongside Mike Dam. Row 4, David Patton and Travis Schwenke. On row number 5, Rafael Sosa for Delta Motorsports, starting alongside Jennifer McDonald in the StreetSurvival.org number 99. Row number 6, Robert Hartley. We talked about Robert already in the championship fight in the Excite Energy Asbury Motorsports number 3, while Chris Thorman in the D2D Esports number 60, rounding out the Dirty Dozen. It'll be Arthur Chan in the 87 starting 13th alongside Russ Ruddick, while Raymond Rodriguez and George Fike set to go on row number 8. Row 9, Derek Holland alongside Kevin Ford in the Ricmotech Motorsports machine. And then we move our way back into the GTD category. Caleb Lavender, point leader. Crucial pole position as he takes the position away from Dennis Savretic. Brandon Whitworth and Eric Violette will be on the second row of our GTD category. Then Jeff Jacobs rounding out the drivers we have set to go. I believe Anthony Kernan, an entry that we did not see. So 6 drivers, Alessandro, set to go in GTD.
Indeed. We have a relatively short pace lap here in Catalonia. Drivers already lining up behind the Porsche pace car with our leaders Andrew Caron and Ian Gagnon Renault with an incredible tie in qualifying, set to lead all the field in this twisty final sector of this beautiful track.
Yeah, indeed, as you said, Alessandro, they're going to do a shorter pace lap. In fact, starting between turn 9 and turn 10 into the twisty section, as you said. It's a left-hand rather tight turn number 10, little kink left-hand turn 11, and a big sweeping turn 12 where they are right now. A short shoot sends them over down the hill into turn number 13, which is a quick right-hander. Another downhill run into the left-hand turn 14. The 14-15 combination sets up the run. You have to be good through 14 and 15 because really that sets up the drive all the way through turn 16 down to turn number 1, which is, of course, the primary overtaking opportunity here. Good to see the cross-section of cars. I absolutely love that as well. The Ford GT on the pole for Caron, and on the outside, the BMW M8 GTE for Gagnon Renault. Field set up. It'll be a split start. The drivers here at GTLM will go off the iRacing lights, and we are underway. Green, green, green. Start now for the drivers in GTLM. The long run, the downhill push into turn number 1. Outside goes Caron. Can he run the outside of the corner? He'll have the inside for turn number 2. He'll hold the spot. Good job there for Gagnon. He goes to the inside, though, coming through turn number 3, the sweeper. Gagnon Renault taking over the lead. It was interesting starting on the outside as he did. They would have had to push a little further out for Caron to hold the spot, but Gagnon Renault has gotten into the lead. The 44 now of Acosta into the second spot. Let's have a look. I believe that they've already started, the GTD class. Indeed, here comes the GTD class, Alessandro. They're getting the green as well. Waiting to see when they got rolling. So again, the pole sitter starting on the inside of the track this time, and that is the 01, or the 1 of Caleb Lavender. Lavender in that number 65 machine, rather, the 01 on the window showing his position on track. So the Audi out front in the R8 GT3, and Alessandro underway. Good start for the opening couple of corners for both categories.
Yeah, indeed, great start by Lavender. Meantime, we catch a replay here. Is Travis Schwenke in the 16 car. Let's see what happened in this tough... someone overshot the hairpin. It was the 50 car. Rafael Sosa. And then obviously El got loose. It's very complicated here to catch the braking point, especially when you have so much traffic in front.
Yeah, that was Sosa just overcooked it there in a big way. Put the Delta number 50 machine, that Delta Motorsports car, and look at all the drivers that got involved in that as well. One of them being Chris Thorman in the Ferrari number 60. He had nowhere to go into the gravel and actually made contact with the wall on the outside. So a little bit of a messy opening lap, a little further back in the field. Sosa probably overcooked that one. Tried to, obviously just locked up the brakes and wasn't able to get the car turned. Here's the fight now between Arthur Chan and the number 87. Chan battling it out with Raymond Rodriguez in the 129 machine. Again, that's the battle for 10th. So just inside the top 10 here. Chan in the Porsche and then Rodriguez in the BMW. Drivers, again, working their way through this sweeping right-hand part of the racetrack. It's a tough part of the track, I think, to be able to get the power down. But drivers looking good thus far. Caron, though, able to go back out in the lead. Oh, almost off goes the 87 of Chan. That again, we're watching guys, Alessandro, really drive kind of the razor's edge already, really using all of the racetrack.
Oh yeah, for sure. As we were saying before, the pace for all these drivers is very even. So everybody wants to get as much track position as possible. And the same applies to Caron, that had a very good start, but Gagnon Renault in his Ford managed to get through him for a bit, but the BMW, even though maybe now in the iRacing VOP is not the fastest car, seems to be definitely very fast around here.
Indeed, BMW, Ford, BMW, Ferrari, BMW. That's your top 5 manufacturers currently running now in the GTLM category. And again, we'll fire it up back for you. This is a 75-minute race. We're not only 4 minutes into the event. Andrew Caron, the driver, out into the lead here. The Canadian setting the pace in front of Ian Gagnon Renault. So Canadians run 1-2. We will give you a little update here. Right now, we are expecting to go somewhere around 37 laps in this particular 75-minute race. Now, the pit window for the drivers in the GTLM category, likely between lap 12 and lap 32. Somewhere in there, you're obviously going to be able to make the run. You either pit early or you pit late. All depends on how things kind of shake down here throughout the run. We expect to see different pit strategies. We saw that many times. Some guys will come in a lot earlier. Other drivers will do that to potentially jump ahead of the drivers they're battling with if they think they're being held up. But lap 10 to lap 31 for GTD, lap 12 to lap 32 for the drivers in the quicker GTLM category.
Let's catch the replay with David Petron in the 64, the Canadian driver. We show him going a bit slow before entering the replay. Yeah, he had a little moment here and managed to keep the car in one piece going through the gravel there. But no Arno Fauli is back in P9. He definitely lost some time, but the car is in one piece. This is what matters now. Andrew Caron still in the lead, and in GTD class, Caleb John Lavender in the 65 in the solo Audi. We have two Audi actually. One in the lead and one closing up the GTD class today.
I'll tell you, Alessandro, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what we saw at Silverstone when it was the Audi and the Mercedes locked together for the entire race in that GTD class. It was the Caleb Lavender with Rodriguez, with Esteban Rodriguez, and Rodriguez sat off the rear wing for almost the entire race. Didn't lead for a majority of the battle, and then finally put the pressure down a little bit. Lavender, though, in the GTR SimSport machine, was super strong the entire race. We're kind of seeing that again. Lavender looks real good here out front, but again, it's another one of those Mercedes right there. Denis Savretic is right with him. And in fact, let's make sure we bring this up and not forget about it. That's the battle for the point lead as well coming in. They're separated by only 6 points, 180 points for Caleb Lavender, 170 points for Denis Savretic, and Brandon Whitworth running third right now, third place in the points as well at 158 points. He's not that far back. He's only 22 points back of Lavender. So we have ourselves a really good championship battle. Penultimate round here. This is the extended 90-minute race at Watkins Glen in 3 weeks' time. So these guys all about trying to get as many points as they possibly can. If either of the drivers behind Lavender are able to get through somehow and win this by the end of 75 minutes, that will tighten the championship battle even more.
Yeah, indeed, for sure. These drivers are trying to make something happen because if Lavender wins this race, he's pretty much in a solid position to get the overall win in 3 weeks time. For sure, Savretic is fast. We've seen him having plenty of plays all season long, and the Mercedes might be able to save a bit more tires on this track. Usually the Audi is very slidey around the fast corners, so we will see. Meantime, we have already some lap traffic for our leaders in the GT Le Mans class.
Indeed, I believe that might be Anthony Kernan in that number 7 machine that they're working their way around. Indeed, Kernan staying to the bottom of the racetrack. A little bit of trouble potentially for Acosta to get around the outside. But with that particular corner, there is quite a bit of runoff room. So fully leveraging that particular part of the racetrack. Again, this is the lead group working their way down through the hill here. And again, up over to turn number 9, which is the quick right-hander. Come out of turn number 9 to the second longest straightaway here, Alessandro. A downhill run into turn number 10, which is probably the tightest part of this racetrack, turn 10. Now climb on the binders right now. It's a big corner all the way back around. A little short shoot up here to turn number 11 and through the 11-12 combination. And a good run so far for Andrew Caron. Again, we talked about the fact that Andrew was in the middle of the fight for the race win at Silverstone, as he has been throughout the season, currently back by just 12 points from Ian Gagnon Renaud coming in, and he, of course, leads Gagnon's Ford GT now. And if they were to finish this way, just as it was the case in GTD, you'd see the championship titan in GTLM as well. This is going to be a great finale. June the 22nd, final round of this spring schedule at Watkins Glen, round number 8 rather. This is round number 7. I like the fact that we got a good battle between these two.
Oh yes, indeed. We have seen these cars definitely provide always very intense racing. Maybe they are not the best cars to see overtakes because it's very complicated to pull out a move in any track if you are very even. Especially here in Catalonia, we have a few passing spots, especially after the long straights. Then you can always force a move, but it comes with some risk, and especially in the last sector, in the twisty section, the toboga, as I like to call it, because after the last changes they made at the track, it has become even more twistier than before. It's pretty much impossible to pass. So, especially when the GT Le Mans class will hit GTC traffic, is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, top 4 drivers right now: Caron, Gagnon Renaud, Acosta, and Bin, separated by just over about 3 seconds. So very close. You can see the drivers all working together. And interesting, if you actually look back as well, top 6 drivers, 4 different car manufacturers, all 4 of the available GTLM cars are all represented in the top 6. As I said, the BMW for Caron and Acosta, and then it's the Ford GT for Ian Gagnon Renaud. We've got the Ferrari for Caden Bin, and back in 6th position as well, we got the Porsche 911 RSR. Here's a bit of a battle right now. What a good scrap we got going here for 3rd position, because it's Caden Bin in that number 18, the Ferrari, putting a ton of pressure on Acosta. Acosta, in fact, very early, only 10 and a half minutes in, went full defensive, coming down the front straightaway and made that move. Riding on top of the car of Bin right now. We'll get a good look. Let's just stand back here. We'll sit back, Alessandro, and let's ride along here with Caden Bin in the RSR Esports Ferrari number 18.
Beautiful sound of the Ferrari GT.
Hey, listen, that's my question for you then. You like the sound of the Ferrari. 4 different manufacturers in the top 6. I know that you said before we came on broadcast that you probably have all the cars here in your arsenal on iRacing. If you were to jump into this race, let's say we gave you a provisional, you're coming in late, which of the 4 cars is going to have Dalladoni on the side of it?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think I might have chosen the Porsche car, because the BMW is a bit too big for this twisty track, in my opinion. The Ford is a bit slower compared to the start of the iRacing Season 2. They slowed it down a little bit after being very very fast in the first part of the season. Ferrari has definitely a lot of straight line speed, as per usual also in real life is always very fast. The Porsche is the good balance in between the Ferrari and the other two cars, so I feel like this might be a good idea, but obviously these drivers had to select the car for the whole season, so definitely they made a choice, a selection comparing all the different tracks, but I think in this track the Porsche would suit definitely very very well. Meantime we see another great battle for 14th place between Holland and Thorman.
Indeed, further back in the pack, some good racing as well as Alessandro detailed. Derek Holland and Chris Thorman. Remember, Thorman was one of the drivers who went off with that incident early on with Rafael Sosa. He got pushed off the racetrack and made light contact with the outside retaining wall, but looks like he was able to continue. Currently in a pretty spirited battle, as we said here, with Derek Holland. Again, that is for, actually, is that Holland actually in front of him in the 64? No, indeed, I think that's further up. I think that's Kevin Ford, actually. Indeed, Kevin Ford in the number 32 Ricmotech machine, running in the 11th position. I talked to Kevin before the start of the broadcast, because, of course, he's part of the management team here with Extreme Motorsports and the Ricmotech series, and he did admit to me that he has not had absolutely any time here at Catalunya. So the fact that he's running right now in the 11th position is pretty solid, because he really wasn't, he didn't give himself high marks and high expectations coming in, but just outside the top 10 right now, had a really strong run in a couple of the series we've seen. He, of course, runs in the Classic Sprint Series and the Sports Car Series, all underneath the Ricmotech banner as well. Let's have a quick replay shot here. We got a battle between Russ Ruddick and the number 95. Let's see what happens with him in the Flying Tortoise Motorsports machine. That's one of the Ferraris. Oh, just a little bit loose coming out of turn number 10. That's a tough corner, Alessandro. As I said earlier, tightest part of the racetrack, turn number 10 at the end of the second longest straightaway as well. It looks to me like he just tried to pinch it on the exit and lost the rear end.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too much rear brake, entering that really, really difficult corner. Meantime, we get a notification from race control of a penalty for car number 50. That was the crash in lap 1. It's a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that was Rafael Sosa. Yeah, Rafael Sosa was. We saw a lot of shots of that. Tyler Max, our producer, able to give us some really good insight and shots into that. A couple of different angles of the incident happening with Sosa, who overcooked the brakes and took out a couple of drivers. So a drive-through penalty for Rafael. I think the penalty fits the crime in this particular case. So, again, staying on with this battle for 11th place in the GTLM class, it is Kevin Ford in that BMW number 32 and David Payton in the number 64 Ferrari. Payton putting all the pressure on Ford here. And again, has a look to the inside, down the hill now into turn number 10. He'll go to the inside, comes Payton. Book it. He's through. Up over the curb, back on power, holds the position, and Kevin Ford's got to scrap it now because he's going to keep having to fight. On the outside, the 09 of George Fike trying to get through as well. Inside is Ford. He's got the position coming in to the next corner, which will be turn 13. Just able to hold back Fike.
Going side by side through this section is not really working for anybody.
No.
It's always better, especially if you're driving a BMW, which is very wide. It's better to go single file. It's really, really tough to go side by side. To be fair, Rob, I prefer the historical layout, the one without this twisty section, because it gives drivers a bit more room, and especially the exit of the last corner is even more important, because you have to get it right if you don't want to lose tremendous time going through the straight. So definitely this modification to the track they applied in the last few years. Meantime, we see the 09 touching Ford. Ford is around, a bit of chaos also with the drivers behind them. Let's catch a replay. This GTC car, the car number 7 of Kernan,
Yeah,
slow
that
down
was
Ford and
yeah, that was Fike just getting a little impatient right now. Kevin Ford was going to the outside of, I want to say, it might have been Anthony Kernan, and he was trying to get to the outside, and Fike kind of got to the inside, got into the right rear, and the way that car, of course, of Ford was kind of just on the edge of adhesion, trying to get around the corner. It didn't take much to send him back around. They're actually going to put that incident under review, so we'll get a call coming in from the race director momentarily, and they'll let us know what's happening there. Contact, of course, sending Ford down the order. He goes down to 15th position. That's going to move Arthur Chan up to 11th, Eric Holland to 12th, and Chris Thorman to 13th. Watching the battle now for third in the GTD category. A couple of the Mercedes-Benz going at it right now. That's Jeff Jacobs and Eric Violette scrapping it out here for third in GTD.
indeed, we have a battle for the lead also in GTD between Lavender and Savretic, as per usual, always nose to toe. And also here, third and fourth place between the two Mercedes, trying to fight each other, and there is a big gap now between the leading two cars in GTC and third position, but you never know. Race is very long. We are only 18 minutes into this race. We have almost a full hour still ahead of us, so anything can happen. You never have to give up, and I think Al Crudo is someone who can relate to that after the last race we had in Silverstone, Rob.
Yeah, indeed. There was a number of drivers who had at one point the race essentially in their hands, and things just kind of went by the wayside. Again, as we said, a penalty in pit lane, too quick into pit lane for William Laster. He ended up going and having to do a drive-through penalty. He tried to fight his way back up to the podium and spun on the final circuit. That put Acosta back up into P3, but indeed, it was Miguel Acruda who was able to come away with the victory there. Pushed all the way through the race, didn't make any mistakes, was able to come up with that position. Following now the battle for ninth in the GTLM category, it's the 87 machine of Arthur Chan, a couple of Canadians going at it. So it's the Porsche of Arthur Chan and the Ferrari of David Payton. I will say this, we are now into the front of the pit window for both categories now, so we could see drivers make move to the pits. You know, obviously, if you go in early, you got that long run to the end. It's a shorter fill coming in at the front of the pit because you don't have to fill up totally with fuel. You haven't used up your fuel. Obviously, on the other end, you don't have to put quite as much fuel into the empty tank, so the stops really are the same amount of time. It's just timing how you want the car to handle at the end. And again, we'll pick up a replay here of the number 42 of Brandon Whitworth. Third spot in GTD, and he goes around by himself. Tough one through turn number 7. Just looped the machine around. Here's coming back down the hill, picking up Abner Acosta in the 44. That BMW getting chased aggressively here by Caden Ben. And Alessandro, this has been a third, fourth battle where they've kind of been on top of each other from the get-go. And even out front, in that second spot, just ahead of these two drivers, it's Gagnon Renault. He's actually getting held up by one of the GTD cars. So we're going to have, I think, second, third, and fourth on top of each other when they head down to turn number 1.
Indeed, traffic helping the BMW Occaron up front. He already pulled a little bit of gap in the last laps. I was watching the standings and slowly, steady, getting better time than Gagnon behind, but with this traffic, sometimes it can help you, sometimes it can bite you. So in the next 60 minutes, we will see if also the Ford driver will get a bit more luck than he had so far. But apart from this 2-second gap we have between Caron and Gagnon Renault, Acosta and Bean are really close, so we have still a very good fight here in the top 5 in the GT Le Mans class.
Indeed. Let's say a look at the 09. Indeed, getting a penalty, incident responsibility, drive-through penalty for the 09 of George Fike after that contact with he and Kevin Ford. So again, as I said, a little overzealous move there as they tried to work their way by one of the slower GTD cars, and that penalty, of course, coming down. Indeed, as well, really good job there, I want to say, for Brandon Whitworth as well. He was third in GTD. He was the driver who spun around. That spin brought him right into the middle of the fight. He was actually in fifth position overall in GTD, trying to fight his way back. But he held his line cleanly, and that allowed second, third, and fourth place in the GTLM category to come through. Ian Gagnon Renaud, Abner Acosta, and Caden Bin all doing a good job to work their way by. Watching now the battle for 11th spot here with Chan and Holland, Arthur Chan and Derek Holland, 11th and 12th. That's the fight we're watching. Let's do this here, though. Let's pick up our leader right now, Andrew Caron, now with a pretty solid little lead, 2.165 seconds, the lead for Caron up front. I think we need to jump on board with him and maybe take a full lap around here. We'll sit back. Actually, here comes this fight. I want to go have a look at a lap around with Caron. But this scrap not giving up here at all, Alessandro. This is for P3. This is Acosta and Caden Bin. And Caden has been relentless in the pressure that he's been putting on. That's an impressive run so far.
Yeah,
coming
definitely.
across the front straightaway right now. So it's, I think we're going to pick up, trying to set up here with our producer, Tyler Maxon, to do that run. Let's wait for the leader to come back around one more time. Next time we get the leader back around, we'll pick up an in-car drive around the track here with Andrew Caron. But otherwise, the racing we're seeing for the positions in the top 2, 3, 4 have been just tremendous thus far.
Yeah, indeed. We have battles all over the place, so it's difficult to pick a moment to stand by and watch an onboard lap with our leaders, because we might miss some really good action, Rob.
Yeah, indeed. There's a lot of racing going on. We want to kind of cut away. As we've said, we were planning on trying to give you people that are following the action here a lap around the racetrack with our leader, Andrew Caron. But, man, you don't want to miss anything because the battles have been so good. And Abner Acosta knows how to deal with this, because remember, if we go back just a couple of weeks ago to Silverstone, he's the one that had William Laster pushing him hardcore over the last number of laps. Laster was able to get by but spun on the final circuit. Acosta slipped back through to take that final position on the podium. Again, by start finish here now. That's that battle still. Third and fourth, Caden Bin. Remember, he's second place in points as well, and sooner or later he's going to start getting a bit frustrated, because if he thinks he's faster right now, when does he come to pit lane? You know, Alessandro, do you make that jump to pit lane and potentially try to leapfrog over, or do you hold on here as long as you can, put the pressure on, and see if you can't force Acosta into a mistake?
That's a very good question. I think pit lane is already open for fuel for all the cars now, so you could eventually jump into pit road and make your stop, fill the car up, and try to go to the end, avoiding traffic and trying to split the strategy compared to Acosta. But I think with less fuel on board, obviously the cars are getting faster and faster. He might want to stay on track, save maybe a little bit of fuel and jumping on fuel strategy. This is the beauty of having this meantime. We have a little bump and run for Thorman on Chan, but the 87 in the Porsche car still stays up in front. This three-way battle is for position number 11 in the GT Le Mans class.
Indeed, the number 60 Ferrari Chris Thorman, carrying the graphics of one of our series sponsors, Pro Forma Elite Texas Graphics. Beautiful, again, Ferrari 488 GTE. Number 60 machine sandwiched in the middle right now of Arthur Chan and Derek Holland. Trying to find a way by Arthur Chan right now in that Porsche number 87. That, again, is the battle for 11th, 12th, and 13th, as we said. So the battling continuing, and the solid wheel-to-wheel racing that we're seeing here. Again, early on, we're not even to the 30-minute mark. 26 and a bit down of a 75-minute race. So past the 1/3 mark, we do expect to see pit stops between now and lap number 31 or 32. And again, that's late. So drivers who could potentially stay very late just do that splash. The cars, of course, as Alessandro, you mentioned already, the cars are going to get faster and faster the lighter the cars get. So if you do go way later into the window, the cars are going to get quicker and quicker. Drivers aren't going to change tires, so it's not like a fresh tire is going to come in if you change. There's a pass actually for turn number 1. Thorman able to make the move. Pretty good run there for Chris Thorman as he goes to 11th.
Yeah, Thorman was very, very impatient last time by, so he definitely wanted to go through. He bumped several times Chan in the 87. But as we are lucky now, we catch the leader, Caron, in the 72 BMW, right behind the 2 leading cars in the GTC. Let's jump on board and enjoy a beautiful lap here at the Circuit de Catalunya.
And back onto the front straightaway, you can see how quiet the hands were of Andrew Caron. Again, we'll look back in here as drivers working their way through the GTD field. The scrap continuing between Acosta and Caden Bin. Look at Caden all over him, just waiting for the opportunity. But they're coming through. This is the 2 leaders in the GTD class. That's Savretic and Lavender. They're going to go to the inside of Lavender. He's got to be very careful coming through as these drivers working him hard coming to the top of the hill at turn number 3. That short shoot over to turn number 4. Right up front there is Gagnon Renaud, your point leader. But again, solidly done by both Acosta and Caden Bin to get by. And I want to say well played as well for Lavender and Savretic, Alessandro, because that could have been dangerous. Because they're, of course, in the middle of their own fight. They're in the middle of their own championship battle as well, with Lavender and Savretic. That's first and second in the overall championship standings in the GTD class. Remember, only one more race to go, so you want to make sure those drivers are able to get to play cleanly as well as third and fourth climbs through cleanly.
Indeed, and we all know that when we have a faster car approaching and you are always in a fight in your class, you'll try to get the best out of any situation. And for sure, both Lavender and Savretic were trying to get maybe a little jump on each other through this difficult situation with GT Le Mans cars coming by. And for sure they will be trying again whenever they get another group coming, because these are the moments that can define a race. If you are smart enough, you can pull that 1.2, 1.3 second gap to break the draft, and the guy behind you might not catch you back.
Indeed, watching this fight here between Acosta and Caden Bin, they've had a pretty good run so far. Again, there is second place driver Ian Gagnon Renault in that Ford GT, running alone by himself out front. We've already did a full lap around with Andrew Caron. Behind him, as we said, Abner Acosta and Caden Bin in the middle of that scrap. Here they work their way through turn number 4, then big sweeping right-hander. A little further behind them is Miguel Acruda. We'll pick up Acruda Sr. in the number 55, of course, Silverstone winner, coming off that victory. Tremendous run for him. He currently runs in that in the 55 car. A little further back to Mike Dam, veteran driver, and one we always expect to potentially go for the win. Has been in the hunt in all the Ricmotech series, driving the Tech Orange, probably Cryptology Racing Orange Porsche 911 RSR. Mike currently running in the 6th spot. Another Canadian behind him will pick up the number 64 of David Payton. Payton has been working his way forward. A little bit of damage on the left front of that car for Payton in the Ferrari, the 488 GTE. Again, Canadian driver in the 7th position. He's got a bit of room on the DTD Esports machine. A little bit off track, coming back down through the hill at turn number 5 over to 6 and 7. Further behind David Payton, Raymond Rodriguez in the number 129 Delta Motorsports machine. That machine, one of the BMWs. And Alessandro, let's go further back with you. Let's move back to Jennifer McDonald.
Yeah, indeed. Jennifer McDonald in the 99 is in the 9th place. Went up 1 position from the start in the StreetSurvival.org BMW. And a bit behind him, you will find Chris Thorman. We saw him being very aggressive earlier on in this race, making a few spots. And now he's closing our GT top 10 at the moment in the D2D Esport Ferrari 488. Arthur Chan is behind him in the 87. The Canadian driver is just a little bit in front of Derek Holland in the 80 Ferrari. They have been fighting for a few laps. Meantime, we catch a replay here with David Payton in the 64, going very wide on exit the hairpin, and in this very, very difficult right-hander, lost control. So not the perfect day he was hoping for so far for the 64 driver. Going back to our through the field, we have Derek Holland, as I was saying, in the 80 car in 12th position, and Beck in 13th position, right in front of the Mercedes GT3 car, which is a lap car, is Russ Raddock in the Flying Tortoise Motorsport Ferrari. In 14th place we have Kevin Ford, coming back from a contact earlier on in the event. The Ricmotech Motorsport white BMW is trying to recover from a hard crash, and he is in front of Robert Hartley, actually now in 15th place, but he is the only GT Le Mans car, who has actually made a pit stop so far. So this might be a strategy move. Maybe there was some contact earlier on he wanted to fix. We will see in the next few laps.
Let's pick up our drivers in the GTD category. It's been a great run so far for Caleb Lavender, trying to get a victory here to extend his championship lead. Again, coming into this event, a little lead of 6 points over Dennis Savretic, and it's Savretic actually right behind him. It's a GTR SimSport Audi for Caleb Lavender. Right behind him, though, you can see the 02 on the window. That is Dennis Savretic, who runs that Mercedes-Benz machine. That is first and second battling it for you right there. That is the leader, Lavender. Again, working his way through one of the tighter parts of this racetrack. Savretic right behind him will kick to Savretic. And that is an impressive machine as well for Savretic. And very similar, like I said, what we saw at Silverstone, where Lavender was chased pretty aggressively throughout that entire race by Esteban Rodriguez, who was behind the wheel of one of the Mercedes AMG GT3 cars. Championship battle, though, between these two drivers most definitely on. Give it up for Brandon Whitworth. Remember, he had an issue early on in that number 42 machine. Whitworth, who had that spin and then got caught up by the drivers coming through in the GT-LM category. In fact, both of these drivers here have got one of the GT-LM drivers trying to get by them. He'd better wait onto the straightaway. And indeed, we expect that's Mike Dam, I believe, in the number 93. And indeed, he pinches the exit to get a better run. They actually cut the horsepower on the GTD cars a little bit at the start of the season to give them the GTLM cars a little easier opportunity to make the pass on the straightaways to kind of clean things up a bit. Here is Jeff Jacobs, actually. It's Jacobs now up in the third spot. I had mentioned Brandon Whitworth. Jeff Jacobs in the Mercedes, now running in the third spot in the number 38. Kind of a quiet run so far for Jacobs, but a good run here to P3. Here's Brandon Whitworth trying to reel him in that D2D esports machine. Again, I talked about the fact he was P3, spun it, went all the way back to 6th, has clawed his way back to 4th, and has not yet made the pit stop, and is turning lap times quick enough to get him closer to Jacobs, about 0.4 of a second faster last time by. And you can see how close he is, getting ready to line things up. Eric Violette, another one of the D2D Motorsports drivers, currently in the 5th position in GTD. As we have 4 drivers in the Mercedes and a couple drivers in the Audis. Last driver in the Audi is Anthony Kernan. We picked up Anthony, but that's let's get back to the leaders. Here we go. We kind of did a full run through of the field for you. Again, great to have you with us here on Apex Racing TV. Again, this particular broadcast as well on the iRacing Esports Network. My name's Rob Howden, joined by Alessandro Deladone and our producer, Tyler Maxon, as we are now past, let's say not quite past, almost past the halfway point, just past the halfway point, 38 minutes into what will be a 75-minute battle. A couple of good scraps. Caleb Lavender in the 65 has been haunted for a majority of the race by Dennis Savretic, the 2 drivers in the championship battle here in GTD. It's a 4.2 second lead for Andrew Caron, who is looking to work his way back into the championship challenge. He came into the race just 12 points behind Ian Gagnon Renault, and indeed runs in front of Gagnon right now. That's only 3 points, but he's still chipping his way back with a chance of potentially racing for the title. We head to Watkins Glen in a couple of weeks. Really, Alessandro, the better battle has been with Acosta and Bin. The Abner Acosta in the 44 BMW and Caden Bin in the number 18 Ferrari have been right around each other most of the race. Looks like Acosta's developed a little bit of a gap. You can see that here. Probably the best cushion he's had for a while, but I would expect to see Ben get right in there again.
Yeah, indeed, for sure. Meantime, we catch a replay here with Jeff Jacobs in the 38 Mercedes AMG in 3rd place. He went a bit too deep there at the hairpin and kept it clean anyway, so he's still defending his 3rd position, but Brandon Whitworth is right behind him. Meantime, here for 3rd place, Abner and Acosta, as you were saying, Rob. Acosta pulled in a decent gap now. Meantime, we go also back to Kevin Ford in the 14th position, defending from Robert Hartley in the 3 car, who already made his pit stop. A bit longer pit stop than what we will see, I think, in the next few laps from the other drivers, so might have fixed some damage, but here goes by Ford for 14th position, and he will try to set faster laps every time to catch even some more points at the end of the evening.
Of course, always watching the lap times as well. Crucial to see who is close, who is closing up. We do expect to see drivers work their way into the pits here in a little while, because 31 is the end of the pit window. 31 laps you're probably going to get out of a tank for GTD. 32 laps for the drivers in the GTLM. We're lap number 24, so we got to be somewhere around 6 to 8 laps before we see the remainder of the field work their way into pit lane. Folks, you're watching round number 7 of the Ricmotech GT Challenge here on Apex Racing TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Stay with us, second half of this race after this break. The on-track battles have continued throughout the break in the action here. Again, the 7th round of the Ricmotech GT Challenge, presented by Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. Penultimate round of this 8-race series. Again, June the 22nd, 3 weeks from now. These drivers will cap off the championship and see who will hold up the big trophy in both the GTLM and GTD categories as we get set to go racing at Watkins Glen. Jumping back on board here, this battle has kind of changed a bit. Remember, it was Abner Acosta and Caden Bin. Well, Acosta's been able to leave Bin behind him. He has actually reeled in the Ford GT of point leader Ian Gagnon Renault, and he is starting to get really aggressive right now. You can see him having a look to the outside. In fact, Gagnon a little bit of a block to the inside. Acosta comes in 7th place in points, but not that far back, to be honest. He'd have to have a couple of big races and rely on potentially a DNF. We're still a long way from the end of this one here, and again, we're waiting for drivers to come into the pits as well. Michele Kruda has made his pit stop. Mike Dam is in the pit lane as well. Those drivers 5th and 6th. We're starting to get to the end of the window, as I said. About 31 laps on a tank of fuel for the GTD cars. So we'll see the remainder of those guys come in here pretty soon as well. And I think we're going to see Gagnon Renault, Alessandro, and we're going to see the leader Andrew Caron and Abner Acosta come in here soon as well, too, because they've got about 32 laps on a tank of fuel. So we're probably within, let's say, 3 or 4 laps of seeing all the drivers in the top 4 finally make their run to pit lane.
Indeed, Robert, we have seen already plenty of drivers hitting pit road also in our side-by-side. But as you can see from our bottom of the screen, you have P7, 8 and 9 now, also Peyton, Thorman and Rodriguez hitting pit road and exiting right now. As Brandon Whitworth, who made the pass for P3 on Jeff Jacobs during the side-by-side in GTD class. So Gagnon Renault definitely having now to look after his second spot, because Acosta is cruising very fast, and it's not that the Ford driver has gone slower. It's the BMW driver definitely stepping up and cruising a very fast rate, because Gagnon Renault is still 4 seconds behind Andrew Caron. So is Abner Acosta stepping up his game in these last few minutes of this race.
Yeah, I think our 2 best battles on the racetrack right now for second in the GTLM category with Gagnon Renault and Acosta. That is definitely a good scrap here, about 0.6 of a second separating second and third. Same goes for the battle between first and second in GTD. Caleb Lavender has led from the green light and has not really been overly challenged. Savretic has put a lot of pressure on him for sure. Dennis had been right there with him in that Mercedes, battling it out with Lavender's Audi. But has not really tried anything as of yet, but has more, I think, been very patient and realizing how long this is, a 75-lap race, as we said. We still key on this battle. Point leader Ian Gagnon Renault in the F4H Racing Ford GT machine. Still running in the second spot. And again, right behind him is Abner Acosta in the BMW, a much bigger race car, as Alessandro had said earlier. Drivers pick their car at the start of the season, and that's what they run, I believe, for the entire program. So got to stay with the car you got. And again, here comes pit lane. There's a late move. I think Caron was potentially trying to surprise Abner Acosta there, Alessandro. He wanted to dive in really quickly so that he wouldn't stay right with him. This is potentially going to allow Gagnon Renault to skip over top of him. I'm interested to see what all shakes down here. Andrew Caron's in the pit lane. Ian Gagnon Renault in the pit lane. We got some action now down here. Drivers making their stops.
Yeah, indeed, leader and Gagnon Renault entering this lap. Acosta stayed out. I don't know if it was already planned to do so or he decided to do the opposite of the car in front, but definitely something to watch. Meantime, we have also in our cameras the battle for the lead in the GTD class, which is more or less where we left off 10 minutes ago. It's always the Mercedes GT3 car of Savretic following Lavender in the Audi. Hopefully Savret is saving some fuel standing behind him, so he might also try to surprise him during the pit stop cycle. Meantime, we also see Robert Hartley making up some spots, passing Raddock in the 95.
Yeah, Hartley, you can see both of those cars have a little bit of front end damage. Here's your new leader right now, Acosta. Of course, he has not yet made the run to pit lane. I will bring up the fact you talked about Lavender and Savretic, because that's what we saw at Silverstone. Rodriguez saved fuel. Oh, spin! Coming out of turn number, I want to say that's coming out of turn 13. That might have been, yeah, I was going to say the 3 of Hartley. Rolling too much up over top of the sausage curb, and that BMW went around pretty quickly right in front of the other leaders. Here comes Acosta. He's now into pit lane. Looks like Acosta may have Caden Bin right behind him, so a strong in-lap for Caden Bin. Made up a bunch of time to come right in behind Acosta. This will be very interesting. Out of turn number 13, through this tight 14-15 combination, comes Ian Gagnon Renault, currently in the 4th position. Where is Caron? Andrew Caron as well. I believe he is out in front of him. Yeah, he has already crossed the line. So Andrew Caron with just about, I want to say, 22 minutes to go for the opportunity for him to potentially steal away some points here to try to get closer to the championship battle. There comes the other drivers out right there. So that's how close they are. There is Gagnon Renault. There's Acosta, and there's Caden Bin. So their pit stops are done. A little warmer tires right now for Ian Gagnon Renault in the Ford GT, Alessandro. But 3rd and 4th, good pit stops. They're out on the racetrack again, and we're going to cap this thing off.
Yeah, very similar pit stop times for all the drivers. In the end, the one probably making more time out of the pit stop has been Caden Bin, because he is now really close to Acosta, and the leader extending his gap by another 2 seconds. Russ Raddock in the 95 still running around, and as I was saying, he is entering pit road to take his fuel. Meantime, Caleb John Lavender in the GTR Simsport Audi still leading the GTD field right behind a GT Le Mans car, which passed them just a moment ago. Probably they also are looking to entering pit road in this time by or in the next 2 laps, because I think also the GTD cars are running on fumes right now.
I think
they usually have a little bit of fuel. They burn less fuel compared to the GT Le Mans cars, so they stay out a little bit longer. But we see here now the Audi entering pit road as the Mercedes GT3 car. So we will see a race in the pit road to see who is coming out first.
Let's do that. Let's see if we can't jump on board right now with Savretic. Of course, he's the 2nd driver into pit lane to be right behind him. I want to see if we can jump on board. This would be great. Let's see what kind of a pit stop we get. Here they are into pit lane as well. Again, right in front of Savretic is Lavender. This is their pit stop right now. They are going to get just enough fuel to get to the end. They obviously don't need to fill. Take a long time here. They'll just top it up as much, and a good stop there. Look at this. I want to say that Lavender got away just a little bit more quickly, Alessandro, but it's not by much. This battle has gone from green all the way through to the 54th minute, and I think we're going to see it happening all the way. Lavender getting a little bit of an advantage here as he comes back out onto the racetrack. They're not going to have to worry about any other traffic, any GTLM traffic coming up the straightaway into turn number 1. Looks to me like the winner on that particular stop by maybe a couple of tenths of a second is going to be the driver up front, Caleb Lavender.
Yeah, definitely. I've been surprised there, because I thought that the Croatian driver would fuel his car a little bit less, considering he has been in the draft all the time. So definitely a very good strategy from the GTR Simsport driver.
Alessandro, in my part, I was sure that he would have tried to go for one more lap. Considering the fact that he has been in that slipstream using the draft for the entire time, We're going to watch this battle here for third. Acosta and Ben. Ben's going to try to go to the outside right now. Can he roll the outside in turn one? Acosta on the inside, Ben on the outside. No. Still a good run for Ben, and he's going to work his way through turns 2 and over to turn number 3. It's that big sweeping right-hander back up the hill. Short shoot over to turn number 4, and Caden Ben put tons of pressure on. But to cap that thought, I'm really surprised that we didn't see one more lap at a Savretic. Here's Kevin Ford, little loop by himself, losing the tail of the number 32 machine. Back to the battle for third. But again, I'm surprised Savretic, with all the potential fuel saving he was doing, Alessandro, couldn't have squeaked out just that one more lap. Stay on the racetrack with the car so low on fuel, so light, so fast. You just would have thought that maybe he might have been able to jump over top of Lavender. Instead, he pit with him, and they came out virtually identical. And of course, Savretic losing just a little bit. I'm sure he'll be able to make it up in the draft. But again, that was a surprise to me that we didn't see a little more strategy, having followed in second place for 55 minutes.
Indeed, I think Lavender has definitely more pace than Savretic in the Mercedes. And if the Audi driver manages to get a few clean laps, I think this race might be over. I hopefully, for entertainment purposes, hopefully it's not, because otherwise they would definitely give us less entertainment, and we would love to see another side-by-side battle till the checker flag in the GTD field, because Savretic also has to get some points out of Lavender if he wants to contend for the win in 3 weeks' time at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, indeed, that's the thing. If Lavender is able to stretch that point lead even more, he's going to be very comfortable heading to Watkins Glen. 6 points the advantage right now. And first place points, of course, 35 for first place, 32 for second. So it'd be a 3-point push for Lavender. Top qualifier, which I believe was Lavender again, that's a bonus point. That would be 4 up. Leading a lap, which he's already done. He's led every lap so far, so that's 5 up. So there's really an opportunity for Lavender to stretch a little bit more heading to that finale at Watkins Glen International in just 3 weeks' time. Again, I'm really surprised. I guess Savretic just didn't save as much fuel as I thought. I would have loved to have seen him try for one more lap and potentially be able to flip over top of them and fire that battle up. As it stands right now, Savretic closing back in, less than a second behind. We still have quite a ways to go here in this one. Really, second, third, and fourth running together. We don't talk a lot about the fact that Acosta and Ben really only just over a second behind Gagnon Renaud right now. He's well behind. 5.3 seconds to lead for Andrew Caron. He has got things handled here right now. But again, this battle, second, third, and fourth, a long way from being done. Still a ways to go. And right now, Gagnon Renaud trying to get by one of the slower drivers in the GTLM field.
Yeah, indeed, definitely a very close battle. Acosta, great defending from Bean, and Bean is looking to pass the BMW as soon as possible, because Gagnon Renaud is not far, and if Bean wants to put himself in a very good position to contend at least for the overall win in the GT Le Mans class in Watkins Glen, definitely has to make the pass on Acosta, and possibly also get some points out of Gagnon Renaud, who is definitely our overall leader in the championship yet.
Arthur Chan, the driver of the Porsche, getting out of the way. Arthur running back in the 12th position right now, made room for the drivers in the lead battle coming through, second, third, and fourth. They're continuing to work their way through some of the slower traffic, in fact, getting into one of the GTD cars right now. So again, we're watching them work their way through, being smart. Let's stay here real quickly. Yeah, they got the lights flashing for sure. They're asking Eric Violette to move over to, actually Brandon Whitworth. They're asking him to kind of pull over. Whitworth trying to close back up here, and Jeff Jacobs. That's what the fight is for here right now. Jacobs is holding on to third, and Whitworth, although he's trying to make room for the drivers here in the GTLM car to come through, he doesn't want to lose touch. He wants to make sure he's able to take all of this. Oh, contact! Contact between Jeff Jacobs and the 44 of Abner Acosta. Let's have another look at this. The driver in third place. Contact from behind coming in, and Jeff Jacobs just getting too hard into it to turn number 12. Got into the back of the 44 of Acosta just as he was trying to get the car wound up to rotate in. So we already have the car on rotation. Look at it, just getting ready to turn in on the brakes to get through the tight turn 13. And Jeff Jacobs getting into the back of him. I would expect that will be under review and a potential drive-through penalty for Jeff Jacobs. That is going to move, as we said, Brandon Whitworth now into the third spot. It also moves Caden Bin up into third. Acosta, who had such an advantage over Cruda, still able to hold on to his position. P4. Crazy excitement here, folks. We are getting close to the end of this one. Just over 13 minutes remaining in round number 7 of the Ricmotech GT Challenge. Don't go anywhere. The final run to the checkered flag after this. Just over 10 minutes remaining in round number 7 of the Ricmotech GT Challenge. We're here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Rob Howden alongside Alessandro Dalladone as we pick up once again this race-long battle between the drivers. In the GTD category, we have the Audi R8 machine of Caleb Lavender battling it out with the Mercedes AMG of Dennis Savretic. Not only are they battling on the racetrack, Alessandro, they are also battling in the championship battle. Coming into this penultimate race, a 6-point advantage for Caleb Lavender. He's trying to see if he can't stretch that out here by another 3 or more points by, of course, leading a lap, qualifying on pole. Savretic needs to get out front, and Savretic needs to get, because he'll get, of course, the difference in the points, plus he'll get that leading at least one lap. Even if it's the very last lap, it's still a point for leading a lap. Savretic needs to get by if he wants to have a real shot at the championship when we get to Watkins Glen.
Oh yes, indeed, and I'm even more surprised from the strategy pulled out by the 79 driver in the Mercedes, because he could have got that single bonus point by staying on just a lap.
Good
I don't
point.
know. I
Yeah.
don't know if he did it just because he wasn't sure 100% to have the pace to not to match the 65 of Lavender on that extra lap, or he was right on fumes on fuel. It's gonna be interesting to see if he can have a talk with Savratic at the end of the event.
That's a
Meantime,
really,
also in
really good point, Alessandro. Because to be honest, he either thinks he's able to get past. Now, one thing we do have to remember, I mentioned the amount of points. There is a cap to the amount of bonus points that drivers are able to get, and that's 9 bonus points. So essentially, if you qualified on pole and then won the first 5 races, that's 10 bonus points. You're only able to put 9. I haven't actually looked exactly how many bonus points. I'll go look at that in a couple seconds to see how many bonus points they've actually been able to pick up, and we'll have a look at that. But otherwise, so if you're Savretic, like you said, unless he was on fumes, he should have been able to come back and get that one extra lap and get that bonus point. Or does he think he has the pace? Is he kind of just biding his time here, knowing that he thinks he's going to be able to go for the race win and then get the bonus point for the final lap as well? I think we're all having to we're looking at our notes to find out whether or not these guys have had the full bonus points. But Alessandro, regardless, we've got ourselves a good battle here. We're closing in here. I think we're getting to the point where we've got about 7 minutes remaining in this race. Andrew Caron still the leader in the GTLM category, but the battle here in GTD, just like it was at Silverstone, it's going to go all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, indeed, we should have I think 4 more laps for the GTE cars. GT Le Mans cars, sorry. In Europe we call them differently. I always scared of giving you guys different names for each category. But what a battle we have here between Lavender and Savratic. We have also a faster GT Le Mans car behind, trying to navigate his way through. It's the 99 of Jennifer McDonald, who is actually in 7th place in the GT Le Mans field. Something we didn't touch on is the fact that Jeff Jacobs, after colliding with the GT Le Mans car early on, got a drive-through penalty where we were side by side and dropped back to 5th position, giving Brandon Whitworth P3 in the GTD class and Eric Violet the 4th position in the same class. So we were expecting that, and the official promptly gave the indication to the driver to serve a drive-through penalty while we were during our ad break.
Well, I had a quick look at the points here. This is interesting, looking at the points that I have in front of me that was provided by the series. Looks like, I think, 8 points, bonus points for Caleb Lavender. So he'd only be able to use 1 at this point. And again, Lavender having to make way for the number 99. He's trying to work his way through. That's Jennifer McDonald. She's trying to slide through here to get by the GTD car. Jennifer McDonald currently running a strong 7th at this point here. Based on the points I'm seeing, Savretic, I think it looks like he's got 10 points already, bonus points. So they're obviously going to be, he's got 10 bonus points and 7 bonus points for Lavender. So there's a good point. And we picked that up, and that was a good call there for Tyler Maxon, our producer, dropping us a note saying that maybe Savretic already has as much bonus points as he can, and indeed he has. So no need for him to lead a lap by staying out. It's all about winning races here, because no more bonus points. Doesn't matter if he qualifies pole or leads a lap or whatever it may be here or at Watkins Glen. He's got his full max 9 bonus points on the year calculated. So he thinks he's going to go for a race win. I'll tell you, Alessandro, he's not giving up at all. Less than 5 minutes remaining in the race here at Catalunya, and we have ourselves a tremendous fight for the win in GTD.
Yes, indeed. In the GT Le Mans field, instead, seems to be pretty much settled down. Never say never. We have still 3 laps at least of racing, so Still plenty of miles to cover, but in the end we are still waiting for the response between these two drivers, who is gonna come up top, because these two drivers are always one close to the other. In these last two races we cover, Rob, GTD has been definitely a very interesting category, and I'm really looking forward for the next one too. Meantime, Rodriguez in the 129 defending from Thorman in the 60 for 8th position in the GT Le Mans class. And in front we have also the GTD car. So it's gonna be interesting because these two battles might collide with each other, and GT Le Mans cars might disturb a bit the GTD cars. So it's gonna be a very interesting final of the race.
Agreed. We updated the bonus points for drivers in the GTD class. In GTLM, 7 bonus points so far accrued for Ian Gagnon Renaud. So he's got a couple opportunities as well. But the leader right now, who is qualified on pole, has also led a lap. So 2 bonus points for Andrew Caron. He's only logged 3 bonus points so far. So that bodes well for him going to Watkins Glen as well. He'll be able to get some bonus points there to potentially add to his total again. As we said, Caron back by just 12 points from Gagnon Renaud. If they were finished where they are on the racetrack right now, I believe he would likely make up 5 points. We'll bring it down to 7 points. So, man, it's going to get tight in the GTLM category at Watkins Glen. I love calling finales to races because I really believe the strategy for at one point kind of comes to play, because some drivers, they're going for the championship, and you may make maybe a lower percentage move, a higher risk move, knowing that you need to get up closer to the field, and it always shakes things up. And we know that, of course, Gagnon Renaud would still go in the driver's seat with a 7-point bonus, but I'll tell you, we've seen incidents happen. We've seen drivers spin. You never know what's going to happen in a race, Alessandro, and it's still all going to come down for the final laps on what is a very challenging racetrack in upstate New York.
Indeed, and never know what is going to happen at the end of also the race, because someone didn't expect to finish the race a bit earlier. Was the 60 of Thorman. A bit of internet.
Yeah, it looks to me like he might have checked up a little bit there, because there was an issue for Raymond Rodriguez coming through turn number 10, I think that was, and he kind of got the car crossed up, and the 60th Thorman was going around the outside, and it looked to me like Rodriguez was just diving back to the apex, and I think that maybe Thorman realized that and was really just trying to stay out of the way.
Yeah, indeed. Race direction is already looking at it anyway, so we will maybe have a response before the end of the event. But let's keep an eye on this battle, because Lavender has led all race long. Meantime, we have communication from race control, as you can see on your screen. No action incident has been reviewed between the 60 and the 129. So Thorman unfortunately has to retire a few laps before the end of the event, and no penalty for Raymond Rodriguez actually in P8 in the GT Le Mans field.
Final minute right now on the racetrack here, so it'll all really come down to when Andrew Caron comes across the line. If he's able to sneak under the line here before we get to the 75-minute mark, that's going to open up for another lap for the drivers here in GTD. So we can't call this the final circuit as of yet. I believe we'll find out when they come back around here. Caron leading by 4.7 seconds.
For Caron.
Say that again, Alessandro?
Should be the white flag this time by for our GT Le Mans leader. So last lap.
So final lap on the racetrack for Caron. Let's get back with him again. He deserves some coverage. We'll maybe stay focused here for a while there on GTD, because Andrew Caron, tough when you lead that well. You don't get a lot of TV time. We see that time and time again, because a massive lead for Caron, really getting the job done in terms of closing back up in the championship battle. Caden Bin will actually lose a bit of time. He needed to get by Gagnon Renaud, so he'll fall back a bit. He comes into this race 8 points back and will lose a couple of markers. This is the fight, though. This is for first and second in the race, and also these two drivers battling for the championship in GTD. They will see the white flag when they come back around here, and you can see Savretic in the Mercedes number 79 deep onto the brakes into turn number 10. back up the hill through 11 to 12. This is the fight for GTD. Alessandro, they'll see the white flag when they come back down the hill. We'll see if Savretic has held anything back. Does he have more cards to play for the final lap here at Catalunya?
Indeed, I need definitely, Savretti needs definitely some very good exit speed around that corner to close up, because seems like he doesn't get any closer than that in the twisty section of the track. But here is our overall leader, Andrew Carroll in the 72, the Canadian driver in the BMW, has been cleaning all this event and has managed to get an incredible win, great drive, and with bonus points and this situation is definitely looking very good for the championship. Gagnon Renault in the Ford closes in second position, and Caden Bean in the Ferrari is rounding up our podium for tonight's event.
Jumping back in the battle here for GTD. Again, fantastic victory for Andrew Caron here at Catalunya, but we'll key back on GTD. It's Lavender trying to hold off a challenge here from Savretic, who has been this close from the green light. And the way they work their way down the hill over again to turn number 6, 7, and 8. Through turn number 8, back up the hill to turn number 9. Here comes the challenging part of this racetrack. The better they get through here is an opportunity to make that run down the hill into turn number 10. Savretic trying to line up Lavender in the final circuit here right now. Here is Lavender onto the brakes. A little bit of a move to the inside, more defensive move. That's going to allow a better run out of the corner here for Savretic. They'll work their way back up the hill through turn number 11. Not much time left for Savretic to make that move. It'll be the potential dive into turn number 13. Good run out of the corner. Savretic not close enough. Do we see contact into 13? No. Down the hill again. 14, 15. Savretic's going to try the over-under. Trying to get a better run through the corner. Up over the curb goes Lavender. And Lavender was not able to get the victory. It's Silverstone, but the point leader will extend his margin. Heading to Watkins Glen, the winner in GTD, Caleb Lavender, puts the Audi in victory lane. A little wiggle of the wheel down to turn number 1. He'll flash the lights, and it was a big victory for him and his hopes of winning the championship here in season number 2 in the spring schedule of the 2020 Ricmotech GT Challenge. Winners cruising themselves around the racetrack right now. Andrew Caron with the win in the GTLM category. He takes that BMW to victory lane. Here's your 2 top drivers. They were separated, as Alessandro, essentially by this much space from start to finish. I think you and I both are still a little surprised that Savretti didn't have the fuel running behind as he was, potentially saving some fuel there, getting better mileage to try to get that one more lap with the light fuel load to see if he couldn't jump ahead and grab that race win.
Yeah, definitely, but I'm definitely also thrilled by the great racing provided by both categories today. We had some DNF, but the battles have been incredible. Here are the race results for today's event. Andrew Caron is the winner for the GT Le Mans class. The Milano Sim Racing Team driver is leading Ian Gagnon Renault in the 23, our championship leader by 3 seconds, and Caden Bean in the Ferrari is gonna round up our podium in 3rd position. Miguel Alcrudo in 4th position for Delta Motorsport in front of Abner Acosta, the other Milano Sim Racing Team driver. Using the top 5, Mike M in 6th position, Jennifer McDonald 7th, Raymond Gutierrez from Delta Motorsport in 8th, David Payton and Derek Holland round up our top 10. Russ Raddock is 11th and Arthur Chan is 12th. Caleb John Lavender in 13th place is our GTD winner in the GTR Simsport Audi in front of a great competitor Denis Savretic. They know really well, and they have provided us with some beautiful racing tonight, as also during all season long. Brandon Whitworth, after early issue, managed to recover and get for P2D Esports a great podium in GTD. followed by Eric Violet and Jeff Jacobs. Then we have also Chris Thorman, who had to retire in the last few laps after some contact, Travis Schwenke, Rafael Souza, Kevin Ford, Robert Hartley, Anthony Kernan, George Fike, rounding up today's field. All these drivers from Thorman to Fike have all encountered some issues during the race and unfortunately didn't finish tonight's event.
Well, as a penultimate event on the series in this schedule, this is going to make things very exciting for sure because we talked about the fact that Andrew Caron was able to find some extra speed, of course, here tonight at Catalunya, was able to dominate from start to finish and gain max points for himself, which closes him up on Ian Gagnon Renault. Both those two Canadian drivers set to scrap it out. Caden Bin still most definitely in the fight. And all it's going to take is an issue that would take out one of our championship challengers early in the run or anytime really through the run at Watkins Glen, the finale, which is set for June the 22nd. If we do indeed see that kind of incident, anybody still up for grabs on potentially winning this championship. Kudos to Caron, Gagnon Renault, and Caden Bin, who was able to come through there after the incident involving Abner Acosta. That allowed Bin to move to P3, Miguel Acruda and Acosta rounding out the top five, the second straight top five for Miguel Acruda as well, coming off that victory, as we said, at Silverstone. And again, as Alessandro detailed, Caleb Lavender and Dennis Savretic, Brandon Whitworth, top three drivers, onto the podium in the GTD category. Alessandro, man, a pretty solid battle and very similar to what we saw, I think, at Silverstone to a certain extent. The only thing we didn't see in the GTLM class was a driver pull away and then make the mistake, because William Laster did that in the Ford GT at Silverstone. He had the race handled, but then had the pit lane speed penalty. No penalties, no mistakes at all for Andrew Caron, and that's why he was able to grab that win.
Indeed, Rob. We had some very, very beautiful racing today, as we had in Silverstone, but the drivers have been able to keep it a bit more linear and don't make too many mistakes. We had, yes, some contests early on between Kevin Ford. We had some issues also for Robert Hartley. So definitely we had some issues also here, but overall the racing has been beautiful. It's inevitable to have some contacts in racing, and I'm really looking forward in 3 weeks' time to see the finale of this beautiful championship. But Rob, we have plenty of racing also in the upcoming weeks here with Ricmotech, right?
Indeed, we do have a bunch of racing, as we know, folks. We have the Classic Sprint Series, which is in its 17th season. We, of course, have the new sports car series as well. Those drivers will be back on track soon. I think the Classic Sprint Series up next. Then we'll have the sports car series. Then we come back again with the GT Challenge. Every Monday night, we've got some tremendous racing for sure. One of the things I do want to bring up very briefly here is one of the keys, I think, when it comes to a championship battle like the one we're in right now, coming to the finale at Watkins Glen, and that's momentum. And when you've got the drivers able to get victory here at the penultimate round number 7, that's when those drivers go into the next race with a ton of momentum and a ton of confidence. Of course, we're going to see that confidence out of Caleb Lavender as he leads over Dennis Savretic. But the driver that I'm going to bring up here into the broadcast room right now to get an opportunity to chat with him, and we'll make sure he's with us here right now. We're talking about momentum. We're talking about trying to win a championship, and you've got to claw points back. Andrew Caron, I hope you can tune in here. You're with Rob Howden and Alessandro Dalladone here in the booth. Wow, that was a big race win for you if you're thinking about trying to win this title when we get to Watkins Glen.
Yeah, for sure. Well, from the start, I just tried to put a gap between me and Jan, and from there, I know I'm a bit behind in the championship points, so that was a good thing for the championship. This win, I'm looking forward to the Glen, but I know it's really a straight line track, so it might be a bit difficult. But I'm really looking forward for that race.
Well, Andrew, unofficially, I think you're going to end up being about 7 points back. You were 12 points back coming into this race behind Ian Gagnon Renault. He ended up finishing second. You clawed back, I think, 5 points. So it'll be a 7-point margin going in. You're going to have another tremendous run. What is it about the track here at Catalunya you think suits your style? Because, you really did not put a wheel wrong, and you were the fastest guy on the racetrack the entire day.
I really don't know what it is about that track, to be honest. The first time I drove this track on Assetto Corsa a few years ago, I just knew right there that that track was a track that I really liked because it's really technical. There's a good mix between slow, mid, and fast corners, so that's my style. I really like technical track.
So let's do a quick little preview of Watkins Glen then. It does have long straightaways, like you said. There's not a lot of super technical parts of the track. It's very, very quick. You think that track still, are you going to be able to step it up? Do you feel like you have some confidence going into to potentially able to be quick and steal this championship away from your fellow countrymen?
To be honest, in my opinion, I think it will be a bit hard with the Ford against the Ford, but there. A win is not always about the lap time, so maybe there will be another way to win that race. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll put a lot of practice and see what I can do from there.
Well, if the outright speed's not going to be there, you're going to have to manufacture something. And I know that obviously you can get that done. It was an impressive run. I want to say congratulations. Well done. Is there anybody you'd like to thank right now with, obviously celebrating the victory?
For sure. I would like to thank you guys for commentating on the race. I would like to thank the guys at Ricmotech for organizing this series. And I would like to thank the guys at Mivano for supporting me. They're really a great team, and I love being with them.
Well, I'll tell you, Andrew, congratulations. A fantastic run for you in the BMW in the 72. Canadians finished first and second. You guys will battle it out. Caden Bin will be in the championship battle as well. So will Robert Hartley. We look forward to seeing you in 3 weeks at Watkins Glen. Once again, congratulations on your victory here today.
Thank you, guys. See you guys next time.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to cap things off from Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, in round number 7 of the Ricmotech GT Challenge presented by Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. It was an unbelievable battle from start to finish in the GTD category. We were just waiting for Dennis Sevretic to throw it out all at Caleb Lavender. In the end, Lavender was able to hold off his race-long challenges to get another race win and extend his championship lead. Extension was not part of the plan, or at least not part of the result for Ian Gagnon Renault. He came in with the point lead, but finished second, still able to pull away from many of the drivers behind him. But Andrew Caron, fellow Canadian driver, clawed back 5 points. He'll be back by 7 markers when we go to Watkins Glen in 3 weeks' time, and that is when we will crown the champions of this particular season of the GT Challenge. I want to thank Alessandro Dalladone and Tyler Maxon in the booth for joining me here in what was a tremendous race for the Ricmotech GT Challenge. Again, as I said, join us here once again on Apex Racing TV and the iRacing Esports Network for the final round, June the 22nd from Watkins Glen International. Will it be Caron? Will it be Gagnon Renault in GTLM? And will Lavender be able to outrun Zabretic again in GT Daytona? We're going to find out in 3 weeks' time at one of the most iconic racetracks in North America. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you at Watkins Glen.